Yeah, thank you, Chairman, Professor Kang. On behalf of our stroke and neurointervention team of Cipto Mangunkusumo Hospital, I would like to present our experience in managing brain aneurysm in Indonesian tertiary hospital. Although the number of cases we have performed still very low, especially if compared with Professor Kang and also Dr. Khan. But I would like to share our experience and then maybe have some input from our expert here. Okay, this is the outline of my presentation, and as we know from our speakers, other speakers before, that brain aneurysm is a very devastating condition, especially if it becomes a subarachnoid hemorrhage. It causes more than 500,000 deaths worldwide each year, and then most of the victims are younger than 50 years old. And brain aneurysm ruptures can happen every 18 minutes, and it can cause aneurysmal subarachnoid hemorrhage, which has a mortality rate around 22%. And mostly the patient of aneurysm are women compared to the men, with 3:1 ratio. And then this is the type of brain aneurysm. Basically, it can be divided into secular, fusiform, and also mycotic or pseudoaneurysm. And then these are the conditions that can injure or weaken the wall, especially the tunica media of the blood vessel, which cause brain aneurysm, which are hypertension, mostly as the risk factors, and then chronic tobacco use, atherosclerosis, and also the other one is endocarditis, which is the main cause of mycotic aneurysm. And these are the clinical presentation of the brain aneurysm. It can be headache, or it can be ischemic cerebrovascular disease, or transient ischemic attack, or cranial nerve palsy, or it can be seizure. But most of the clinical presentation found after the brain aneurysm ruptured. It is found during the evaluation of the hemorrhage. And then this is the complication of aneurysm ruptures and subarachnoid hemorrhage. So if the aneurysm ruptured, it can be re-ruptured again or rebleeding, and then causing cerebral vasospasm or delayed ischemic complication and also ischemic stroke, and then it also causing hydrocephalus. In our country, Indonesia, which has around 270 million population, which also has more than 20,000 islands, we have a prevalence of spontaneous subarachnoid hemorrhage around 4.2%. And then the mortality rate of the subarachnoid hemorrhage in our country is from 20.8 to 53.1%, which is sadly significantly higher compared to other Southeast Asian countries. So this is our challenge, and then our hospital, which is the tertiary hospital, governmental hospital, Cipto Mangunkusumo, which is located in Jakarta. We have a stroke team and also neurointervention. There are 4 neurointerventionists of us currently, and then we try to do our best to manage the brain aneurysm. Mostly in many cases, because of the lack of resources and also the issue of cost, we did the conservative management. And then conservative management also recommended for patients over the age of 80 years and then in the small aneurysm. And the mainstay of conservative management is controlling or managing the risk factors, especially the hypertension, which should be aggressively controlled, and then the target of blood pressure should be below 110 millimeter Hg for systolic, and target of pulse less than 60 times per minute. And we also have a large number of population who are smoking, so the smoking cessation should be strongly advocated for our subarachnoid or aneurysm patient. And then if the patient under conservative management, then we did the imaging follow-up at least 1 year interval between the CTA or MRA to assess the aneurysmal growth. I would like to share several cases. The first case, we have a case of myocardial aneurysm, 50-year-old male, which chief complaint of seizure and also decreased consciousness, and suffered from headache over the last week before admitted to the hospital. He was hypertensive, had heart disease, and also nephrolithiasis, and this is the initial Glasgow Coma Scale, so poor condition. He also had a right side hemiparesis and also cranial nerve palsy of the 7 and 12 nerves. And from blood tests, we found leukocytosis and also impaired renal function. This is the diagnostic examination we have performed. The patient suffered from intracerebral hemorrhage and also subarachnoid hemorrhage. This is what we found in echo, endocarditis with regurgitation. And then this is what we find in MRA, because the renal problem, patient cannot be given contrast, so we perform MRA. And we found the MCA aneurysm, suggestive of myocardial aneurysm, because it is located in the distal part of the MCA. And then we give conservative and symptomatic therapy, paracetamol for the headache, levofloxacin for antibiotic. This is suggested from the internal medicine specialist because the patient has the renal problem and the other drugs. Unluckily, the patient, because of the severe condition, passed away during the treatment. And we also did the surgical clipping, especially with our neurosurgeon team. And then the surgical clipping for aneurysm, I think still have the long-term complete occlusion rate, the highest, 95%, which low recurrency rate. And then also the associated mortality and morbidity compared to the other procedure is relatively low. And the retreatment of clipping only 0.27%. And we also have to note that we have to aware of the post-complication procedures, which occurred in more than 10% of the surgical clipping patient. And how about the endovascular treatment therapy, which have been delivered in our hospital? Actually, Prof. Kang have told us that there are several options from coiling, stent-assisted coil, flow diversion, and also flow disruption. But currently in our hospital, we perform these three things: coiling, stent-assisted, and flow diversion. We haven't performed flow disruption yet. And then talking about coiling, I think Prof. Kang also have explained us very comprehensively that this kind of treatment offers treatment for people who are at increased risk for craniotomy, mostly in the older age, poor clinical status, or with comorbid condition. And it is also indicated in small to medium-sized intracranial aneurysm, which long-term success around 80 to 85%, and the complication related to coil embolization is around 10%. And the recurrence rate around 20%, but low incidence of rebleeding and low incidence of procedural mortality and also morbidity. And all patients who are coiled advised to return after 6, 12, and 24 months for diagnostic angiogram to monitor for a residual or recurring aneurysm. This is our case. We have a 53-year-old woman with severe headache, pulsatile type, with a numeric rating scale around 8 to 9, accompanied by left eyelid closure and nausea, and also vomiting, and not improved with medication. We performed brain CT. She suffered from subarachnoid hemorrhage, treated conservatively, and then referred to our hospital. And then we perform MRA, and then followed by cerebral DSA. We found aneurysm, and then we perform coiling. This is also only a simple coil. And after the coiling, we evaluate from the CT angio. We found there is no visible coil migration or contrast extravasation, and then the position of coil still good, with good clinical outcome of the patient. This is the procedure that we perform. We use coil microplex and Cosmos, and using microcatheter headway. And then the second option of interventional therapy for coiling is stent-assisted coil, usually considered for wide neck brain aneurysm, particularly with neck diameter more than 4 mm or dome to neck ratio less than 2. And then in ruptured wide neck aneurysm, it is indicated to be performed for the patient, which success rate around 70 to 90%, and the symptomatic complication rate was 22%, mostly because of the thromboembolic event, and then mortality rates considered low, yeah, and also morbidity rates reported around 4 to 15%. Rebleeding rates and also recurrence rate also have to be monitored closely to this kind of treatment. We have a case of a 73-year-old female admitted to the emergency department with loss of consciousness and then diagnosed as subarachnoid hemorrhage after brain CT. She had nuchal rigidity and right hemiparesis, and then we perform stent-assisted coil. This is the MRA at the initial evaluation. We found the wide neck saccular aneurysm at the ICA segment C7, and then this is the DSA evaluation, 3D DSA. This is the aneurysm, and then we perform stent-assisted coil using these devices, long-sheet ballast, and then we use the stent Leo and also coil Optima and also coil Axiom. The result is good, although the patient have thromboembolic event just 3 days after the procedures, but we can, after we give the anticoagulation, the symptoms getting better. And this is the last endovascular intervention therapy for intracranial aneurysm that we can perform in our hospital, flow diverter stent, which also have been explained extensively by Dr. Khan. This is the indication of flow diverter, wide neck aneurysm for large or giant aneurysm, complex shape aneurysm, and recurrent or previously treated aneurysm. And then it can also be performed in aneurysm located in challenging or eloquent lesion. The success rate almost same as clipping, 95 to 98% with low mortality rate, but the morbidity around 6%. The rebleeding rate around 3.5 to 4%, and the procedural-related complication was quite high, up to 24%, especially because of the thrombosis. And this is our case. We have a patient, 51-year-old woman, admitted to our hospital to perform flow diversion. Presented with recurrent seizure since 4 months prior to the admission. Then when the patient had seizure, she was unconscious, which is last for 5 minutes. But upon regaining consciousness, she appeared normal, no neurological deficit. After the seizure occurred, she underwent the brain MRI and suspicion of aneurysm. Then we performed CTA and revealed an unruptured saccular aneurysm of the ophthalmic segment of the ICA. And this is the aneurysm in the left ICA, in the ophthalmic segment, quite big, saccular aneurysm, 13 millimeter at the ophthalmic segment. And this is the dome measurement. Actually, the dome neck ratio was 2.3. But at that time, we decided to perform the flow diverter stent because this is the eloquent area. And then we implant the flow diverter stent at the ophthalmic segment of the ICA. And then after that, we give dual antiplatelet after a flow diverter for 6 months, continue with single antiplatelet. In 6 month follow-up, there is no new neurological deficit, there is no seizure anymore at the patient. For the conclusion, aneurysm is a major health problem with high risk of devastating intracranial bleeding with high mortality. And in our country, we have the highest mortality in the Southeast Asia region because of the aneurysmal subarachnoid hemorrhage. There are 3 types of cerebral aneurysm, and the management can be conservative, surgical, or using endovascular intervention. Our hospital have delivered all kind of brain aneurysm management, including endovascular intervention with coiling, stent-assisted coil, and also flow diversion with good outcomes. Thank you very much. This is our stroke and intervention team in Jakarta.